Hello, hello. Today, our IG Live is gonna be conducted by a kitty. Hi, friends. How are you? I'm sorry. I know it's kind of like silly. I'm not that great with jokes, but I wanted to do like a little funny kind of introduction because yesterday was April Fool's Day, and I wanted to kind of like like find out a little bit more about the story about behind um, this day and all that. And I don't know, it's a really enigmatic day. I don't know what's going on with that day, but anyways, I wanted to introduce you to my little cat. Her name is Dulcinea, and also to our friends from
Hi,
Latinx Parenting.
hi, Joanna.
How
How
are
are you?
you?
I'm good. You may see me sniffling because I have allergies this morning, but
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe watching the cat won't help.
I'm very allergic to cats, and it's funny because
I know. A lot
I'm
of
always
people are.
I always like ask them like, please leave me alone, like don't come to me, and they're always like, and I'm like, oh no, but yeah, they're attracted to me, and I can't snuggle with them.
Oh, animals love good people. They cannot
I
contain their energy with you.
I
How are you
know.
today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I just sent you that message. I was like, let me just chug my coffee really quick because I don't know if I know most of our followers know, but I'm 30, I'll be 35 weeks pregnant tomorrow. So sleeping is not the easiest thing right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
I was saying a little bit before the introduction about like yesterday was April Fool's Day, and a lot of people love doing pranks that day, and I went to kind of pretty much check a little bit about the story behind the day, and
mhm.
it seems like it's a very like enigmatic, like really nobody knows the origins of that day. They just know that they like to be hilarious at the
Yeah.
beginning of spring. And I mean, I just want to say that some people may be more hilarious than others. I personally don't like pranks, or at least hardcore pranks.
Oh my
And
God.
I always, like say, like, please don't even attempt doing that stuff to me. Like, like for example, putting butter on the floor for the people to sleep,
Yeah.
or like they really kind of like things like putting chili pepper in their food, like parents doing that to their children. I
Yeah.
mean, seriously, it's not my kind of thing. I don't think that's hilarious, making other people suffer. But I
I
don't know.
I
Like,
I have a story for you because my husband and I, we don't. Like the biggest prank that we'll do is we'll put this like emoji pillow that my daughter has, we'll put it in like different places in the house. And so like I'll put it in his closet. So when he opens his closet, there's like an emoji face looking at him. But yesterday I was on my way home from dropping off my daughter at school and I walked in the door. And right as I was walking the door, I'm like, oh, it's April Fool's Day. I'm going to prank him. I'm going to tell him that my water broke.
oh,
And he was in the bathroom and I said, honey, I think my water broke. And he's like, what? And I said, yeah. I said, my pants are all wet and the car is all wet. And he said, are you kidding? And then he like ran out to see me. And I said, April Fools. It was,
oh,
he was so mad, Joanna. He
of
was
course.
hurt. And I mean, like I had therapy yesterday and I talked about it and I was like, I felt so bad because I didn't like in my mind, it was between just deciding I was going to do it and then doing it like 1 second difference, like I didn't even think about it. And so then he texted me later and he's like, he's like, I thought that we would have to, go to the hospital because we're planning a home birth. And so
Oh,
that had happened, like we would have had to go to the hospital
of
and all
course, and get
thoughts like
everything ready and get the top and all that
yeah.
stuff going.
I got like, and then and he started chasing me around with like he had a spray bottle from the bathroom with water in it, and so he's like laughing and chasing me around, And then later he was just like not happy. And so I felt so bad and I apologized. I said, I'll never do that again. So anybody who's watching out there, never prank your husband or your partner in that way, like anything having to do with health or safety. Like I
Yes,
learned my lesson.
definitely. Definitely. I feel like it's good to kind of like talk about it and talk about sensitivities. And if
Yeah.
you are in a close relationship, I know couples that can handle it. Yeah, there are others that don't, like me. I
Yeah.
always tell my kids, like, please don't hide in the dark because I can
Yeah.
die. Like I can literally, if you jump at me in the dark, I can die. And some other people think
Exactly.
like it's hilarious, to have a mask and hide in the
Yeah.
closet, like, okay, cool. But I know
No,
me and I can die. So please don't do those things to me.
I know. I don't even watch scary movies. Like I don't watch scary movies because it's too much for me. And like I'll go see a movie and it's like a romantic comedy movie and then there will be a scary movie preview and I feel so like abused by the people.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
that
oh, these
happens to
movies
me
are
with
scary.
like Carnage or very explicit, violent, like or
Yeah.
like graphic scenes. Like for me, I can't. Like I have moved out of uh theaters. Like if
Yeah.
something like that happens in a movie and I wasn't ready for it, I
Yeah.
choose walk out
Yeah.
because it's too much for me and I can't. And I always tell my kids, if you're in a space where you don't feel like comfortable or something is happening that is very like is shocking you in your core,
Yeah.
don't think it's normal. Like actually is your heart, your intuition that is telling you, let's just get out of there. Like it's damaging and it's not normal.
Yeah.
So and everyone has a different sensibility, but actually it's so funny how we end up talking about this. And I wanted to do like a little icebreaker at the beginning of our conversation.
Right.
I feel like bottom line today, friends, I'm presenting you with Latinx Parenting. They have an amazing, well, I don't know, like service, website,
Move
community help for
like
parents.
movement.
It's a movement. I love it. I love that word. And I wanted to highlight all the things that they're doing because I think pretty much this is a work that we need to do ourselves. Like raising children
Hmm.
require us to work on ourselves and most of the time, we read books about how to raise children and how to deal with the toddlers or how to deal with the baby or how to deal with the teenager, but we are not really realizing that we need to go a little bit deeper in order for us to kind of like really become effective parents. So I want
Right.
I want you to have the opportunity to introduce yourself for the people that don't know about you and what you do.
Yes, so I'm one half of Latinx Parenting right now. My partner, Lisette Toscano, could not be a part of today's live, but I'm sure that you'll meet her soon. And my name is Leslie. I'm Leslie Arriola Hillenbrand. We're based in Southern California. I live in Orange County, and she lives in Whittier, which is LA County, and it's about 40 minutes away. And so we are both trained by what was Echo Parenting, and before that it was called the Center for Nonviolent Parenting and Education. That it transitioned into Echo Parenting, which is what it was when we were trained, and now they're called Echo Training because they're doing a lot more outreach into schools and trying to get schools to be trauma informed and doing a lot of outreach in the community and not just working with parents. And so that's kind of our goal eventually too, is we would like to get other people to be culturally sensitive to the Latino community, the Latinx community, because there's so many programs out there that are serving these communities, but we're not, making sure that they're trauma sensitive, they're trauma informed, they're not healing centered, and they're not culturally responsive. And so
Mm.
Lisette and I got together last year and realized that we had the same vision for doing this for our community specifically. And so yesterday I was chatting with somebody on Instagram and they were like, well, I'm white, do I do I still sign up for the interest list? Do I not? And I said, there are obviously going to be events and spaces that we have that are not, we're not going to open it up to anybody unless they identify as Latinx.
Mm-hmm.
However, we definitely need our allies and we need people that are supportive of the community. And so that doesn't necessarily exclude anybody. So
Definitely.
yeah, so right now
That's so important because that was something that I wanted to kind of like have an understanding. A lot of people don't are not really informed about the terms Latinx, at least an X at the end. A lot of people just say like I really don't know what like what is the meaning of that word. And like I like to tell people that it's the same as when you go to like a women's circle or even men's circle. The effort is not about alienating people. The effort is about having safe spaces where people feel comfortable to share common experiences without being asked or question every word they say. Also, is on the feeling of healing, which pretty much all of us need. But I love that you guys are sensitive to what your community is asking, which is, Latino community. You guys are in Los Angeles or near Los Angeles, where a lot of the community is identify themselves as Latinos, which is another label to people that had come from or have roots of countries of origin that speak Latin languages. That's pretty much what it is. But that encompasses other things, encompasses, like traditions and families and things that happen that are very common as as an ancestral or patterns in our community. And I think it's so important to talk about it. And I'm so glad that you guys are addressing it. But would you like to maybe explain a little bit more about like the X at the end of the word Latinx?
Sorry, my mom was calling.
Oh, I was asking you to maybe if you can elaborate a little bit more about the X at the end of the Latin word.
Yes. So we, towards the middle of last year, Latinx therapy had come out. And so this term had come out, I think, like on social media a lot. Like I saw a lot of accounts come up that were Latinx, and I was like, what is this? Myself, I was like, I don't know necessarily what this represents or why it's suddenly X. I had an idea. But what was really helpful is that the journal of it was Latino Latina Psychology just changed to Journal of Latinx Psychology. And when they did that, they released this big like essay article at the beginning of their journal, and I'm subscribed to it, and it talked about the inclusivity, and it talked about just the diversity of our communities right now and how not everybody identifies as an A or an O, and sometimes there are trans parents, sometimes there's non-binary parents that are raising children, bicultural children, bilingual children, but don't identify as either of those. And so for us, it was really important to make sure that we are not excluding any structure of family, any person that identifies outside of those parameters. And so, it encompasses so much, that X. And also the reclaiming, I think, of our identity, because I mean, we were, I'm Mexican, and pretty much all of the Latino American families were colonized. And so this language that came in was also part of that colonization. And so I think by us saying like, no, we're not going to call ourselves Latino Latina anymore, we're going to be Latinx as a people, it's us now reclaiming the language. And so I think for me, it's two-part. It's that inclusivity, but it's also like this word doesn't necessarily exist yet, but we're going to reclaim our language by using Latinx and saying this is who we are now as a people.
Oh, I love it. And actually, I was getting into a conversation with somebody also on Instagram about like how that wasn't accepted by La Real Academia Española. And I'm like, I'm still gonna use it.
Yeah,
I feel like like at this point, I feel like La Real Academia Española doesn't have anything to do with our experiences.
yeah,
Bottom line, really behind on the trends. And languages do not work like that.
right,
Languages are very evolving, and languages are part of what culture is. And
right,
that's actually one of the things that I do as, as Mama Tortuga is, like a cultural awareness of, we're raising children. Yes, we're raising them multilingual, bilingual, but we are also teaching them about culture and teaching them about like all the other aspects about cultural awareness. And that includes, like talking about like the differences of different families,
yeah,
and how that is pretty much what we need to do in terms of like, supporting families, bottom
yeah.
line. And you guys are doing an amazing job on that. Can you tell us a little bit about like the classes that you guys are offering right now in the area of Los Angeles?
Yeah, so we are right now, we're holding 6 week sessions, 6 week series. There's a few things that we do. So we do special topic workshops. Lisa just did one on Sunday all about the brain and nurturing early brain development. So we're partnering with different organizations and entities that are serving the communities where they are. And we're coming to them and then, not deciding, but asking and figuring out what the need is in terms of what they want to learn, what would be beneficial to them. And so brain development was a big one that was voted for when we partnered with the Playdate this past Sunday. And so Lisette was able to go and do 2 hours on the brain. And I always say, I'm like, all of our classes, they're 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but they could easily be so much longer because once you open up the terms, it's like you don't want
Oh,
to stop.
yes, yes. Right now, I'm kind of trying to explain everybody like that is such a usually overseen fact that, like parenting and even teaching overall, like we're not even taking in consideration the development of the brain of everyone involved.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm reading actually a book about it that is helping me to understand my pre-teenager,
Yeah.
and because my daughter is changing, and right now I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, I need a new set of tools. Like
Right.
parents, like oh, we need new set of tools every time our children go to a different stage because
Yeah.
we are going through the same stage. So and that the name of the book is The Self-Driven Child. I don't know if have you seen it. Like
I have.
it's written by a child psychologist and also a brain as like scientists that they work and with children in general, all teenagers or young adults, and they explain like the differences between the frontal for cortex and the amygdala, and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, that affects how we see life in
Yeah.
general. Because we're not just like, oh yes we are, no, it's
Yeah.
and that it's all those things that we need to be aware of.
Yes.
And the first thing is we need to be aware of ourselves
Yes. Yeah.
in order to kind of being able to kind of raise our children
Yes.
in a good way, in a healthy way. And one of the topics that I wanted to kind of touch with you, I have a lot of Latinos, Latinx followers, and my Instagram is maybe perhaps talking about like the consequences of like a lot of our the way we were raised,
Mhm.
and how that affects the way we raise our children. And
Yeah.
many times, we don't see it as, oh my gosh, yes, like that is affecting us. But I see it a lot, and actually I acknowledge it as myself. And I don't want to see it more as a criticism. I just
Mhm.
wanted to see it more of a show of solidarity
Mhm.
to parents out there that many times, we feel like, oh my gosh, why am I screaming all the time?
Yeah.
Why am I threatening, my children? Or what, like, why are we doing these things, and in which ways we can reverse those things?
Yeah, I think that it ties back to the brain. And so something that you said that was very powerful is that it has to start with us, right? So when we're talking about these concepts of the brain, it's not only helping us have compassion for our child's development, but it's helping us to understand what we went through when we were children. And so we always talk about memory and, how when we were children, a lot of the things that we learned are not even conscious memory. Like if we were constantly yelled at, we may not know, where that came from. If we left that situation, or whatever, we still may have those triggers that cause us to go into those same patterns. And so, so learning about the brain, but also trauma, will help us to have that self-compassion and understand that it's not necessarily our fault, but it is our responsibility to do it differently now that we know what happened and what the effect was.
Yeah.
So I think, our community really has to have access to that self-compassion and to that information that this isn't about whose fault it was. It wasn't about your parents messed up and they ruined you, and a lot of Latino families that we've worked with, at least, I've worked with a lot of the parents in the elementary schools here. The city that I live in is 70% Latinx, so mostly Mexican. And it's in Santa Ana, California. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was born here, I grew up here, and now I'm teaching the parents here. So, but we've encountered a lot of resistance to even doing that reflection process because we have such a high value on respecting our parents and respecting our elders. So to say my parents did this and it wasn't okay, to some people may feel like disrespecting, the effort that they and the sacrifices that they've put in. And so we want to make it very clear, it's not about blaming anybody. It's not about blaming our parents. It's not about blaming ourselves when we fall into those patterns. And it's not about blaming our children, obviously, because they're children. But having that reflective process is so foundational. And so that's something that a lot of our, our community is encountering for the very first time in just, in just this space of this class, and just being like, oh, that's why I do this. That's why I'm yelling. That's why I have an urge to spank, when I'm in fight or flight. What is spanking? It's a stress response. You're generally having your own meltdown and you're in fight or flight. And what does that look like? For some people it's yelling, for some people it's spanking. It's part of that fight. Some people shut down, some people will leave the house. Oh, sorry. So it's just,
No, it's part
context.
of all those conditioning behaviors that we were, like since we were children. That's how we learn many times. And it's funny because what I see a lot is like a lot of people making fun of it. Like actually I include myself. Like a lot of times I say to my husband, like, oh, do you remember when they used to take la correa and like make us suffer, and we laugh about it right now, but I think it's also a type of way that we cope with ourselves, and kind of remembering also like how many times we were physically punished in very rageful ways. And I have to say, like the talking about these issues is pretty much like an awareness of like the entirety of other issues in this world right now. I see like the root of a lot of things happening right now are not being able to acknowledge, like not being able to accept that we need help. I always say to people, like, a person who has an issue with alcoholism, until that person acknowledges that had the issue with the alcoholism, cannot move on. Like everybody can tell them, but until that person really realizes that, like, oh yes, that's the way it is. I need help, or I want to move on. No way. Like people, you cannot coerce somebody to do anything.
And it start with our own self-reflection, right? It has to start with, this is what I do. This is probably why I do it. And then on top of that is the intention. So the intention to want to change, and without those two things, it's going to be really hard to do things differently than our parents did or than our grandparents did. And so
Yeah.
above that, now we need information. Now we need the resources to be able to get that information. Now we need the
And we need the
community.
community, Leslie.
Right. And we need the community.
Like that's something that like that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this series.
Mhm.
I'm calling it Community Friends because for me, you guys are doing that. You are becoming a community for a lot of parents in your end of the woods that are coming to you and are forming like a little group of parents that realize that, hey, I want to get into that acknowledgement, and I
Mhm.
want to have partners in my community that help me with that change. And everything in life, it could be like many other issues, but in this instance is raising children.
Yeah.
Because we realize that in raising children we can change the world, we can
Mhm.
change the next generation, and that will take all of us and trying to work together. Like I'm always very glad to find people like you. Even like I always say that those are the good things about the internet. That maybe we have never met each other in person, but I was able to find out about what you guys do through the internet, and I feel so glad that you guys are doing it because there's so much need, but at the same time we need to strengthen our communities, and
Yeah.
this is a great way to do that,
Yeah.
supporting parents, and in non judgmental way, but more of like, okay, you guys, we are here to support your lives and your children's lives.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any tools that do you offer online?
So that's something that we're working on, and that's going to be our focus for the summer, is to be able to have webinars available, because we've had quite a few people reach out and say, I'm in Texas, I'm in North Carolina, I'm on the East Coast, you have these specific workshops available for us. And so we see the need, we hear it, we want to be able to provide it.
Right.
Right now we don't, unfortunately. So the other thing that we're working on is just a resource list. So I mean, you will be on there.
I was gonna ask about that. If you guys
Yeah.
know, like, if you have like a people or centers around the United States that can be certified, or you guys have like a list and acknowledgement of what they're doing. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure there are a lot of them because, like, seriously, there's good people everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm trying to focus right now instead of like focusing in the like dark annoying vibe that is going
Right.
on. So and I feel like that's what we need to do. Like we need to organize ourselves and become a little bit more aware. Like, okay, how can we help each other,
Yeah.
and bring these tools to a lot of parents that are out there in the internet that maybe they're not close to our communities,
Mhm.
but we can perhaps offer some support.
Yeah, and I think that that's like, if we're going to truly be strengths based, and if we're going to truly be trauma informed, and we're going to truly be collaborative, then we can't see each other necessarily as like competitors. Like this is why we call it a movement, because it's like, if you're a part of this movement, then I'm with you and I'm willing to support what you're doing. And so that's what we want to model, not only as Latinx people ourselves and the way that we're raising our children, because they're watching what we're doing too, but we want to do it as professionals too, and we want to do it as community members. And you're right, I mean, this isn't just stretching to my small city in Santana. Like, this is reaching out to people that, I mean, in cities I've never even heard of. So I'm just so excited to be able to say, like, it's not about hoarding the information and keeping it here and saying, like, no, this is my information, and I can choose like who pays me to share
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
No, we're
yeah.
able to make sure that everybody has access to it, because yes, this is a greater vision that we have. It's not about staying with the old paradigm of competition and staying with the old paradigm of scarcity and lack. Like, no, we have so much to offer. We have so much to give. Everybody has their gifts. Let's bring those to the surface and see how we can all work together. So
Yes, and
yeah.
at the same time, I will have to say, like bottom line, all these things are do need funds,
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's something that I struggled myself, like trying to create this space in my website, and the time that I, allocate, like doing all the things that I do because I believe on it. But
Right.
at the same time, like many times I feel like I don't have the funds, or that people economic support lacks, especially in those instances. And I wonder, like what will I have to take for our communities to also rally behind, initiatives like that, also with their money, because
Mm-hmm.
it takes money many times to do these things, and we would love to kind of, reach out and do more things. And I hope a lot of more parents out there that are, like watching and liking what we are doing right now can reach out to us and tell us, hey, in which way I can support what you guys doing. And
Yeah.
and like you say at the beginning, you don't even have to be in the Latin community to do these things.
Right.
If you ever, wonder in which ways I can be a good ally, or, help out my friends that, I'm seeing a lot of my the families in my community are struggling because of these things, in
Mm-hmm.
which ways I can help them. And I feel like this could be a very concrete way to do that, like support the good organizations that are out there, but
Mm-hmm.
the organizations, not the ones that get all the publicity, because the ones that have the publicity is because they have the money to
Right.
do the PR and, get invited to everything.
Right.
But do a little bit of your homework and really ask around, and ask the parents in your community, like, oh my gosh, like who is really making a difference in your community, and those are the people that we should be supporting.
Yeah, and
um
there's a lot of ways to be creative about it too, and we've been very fortunate because the followers that we've had have been able to provide, $10, $20 every now and then to be able to get or support the parents that want to take the
yeah,
classes and provide scholarships for them.
yeah,
And for us, we're so grateful that people contribute in that way, because ideally, yes, everything would be offered for free at no cost to parents,
yeah.
we would be able to give, and we would be able to feed our children at the same time. Um,
Yes.
but
Well,
we
one day, my friend, one day will be like that. One day we will live in a space where we don't have to kind of like, depend on those things. Because I
yeah,
like to believe that one day we're going to have communities where all of our needs, and everybody's needs will be met.
yeah,
And we won't have to kind of like, ask for money or donations. At this moment, we are asking for money and donations. Like right now, like I'm selling my Mama Tortuga t-shirts, actually, like in a form of like trying to fundraise what I'm doing on my website.
right.
And I really appreciate people who, come up to me and tell me, I will buy one shirt from your website, or, like, because that for me is like, okay, thank you so much for your support. And, I love to see that they can be supportive to what you guys are doing also. So I will be posting all of their links on my website.
Yeah,
Also, I will be uploading this Instagram live on my IGTV, and
yeah,
hopefully it's gonna be soon on my website as well, for all those of you who have, like watch a little bit and cannot watch the whole thing. I was wondering if you can give us like perhaps like some hope or tip of like if we have like if we have acknowledged already that we do have an issue, maybe with our tempers, or we believe that like we should scream to our children. Do you have any advice for us? And I'm
yeah.
including into that because I have to say I tend to be a screamer,
Me
and I
too.
find out that that's not good, because then you condition your children to only pay attention to you when you scream,
Yes,
and that's
yes,
the side effect of it. And then they themselves become screamers. Like they
yes.
will start screaming at you. Like I have a almost 12-year-old, and I can assure you, yes, they will start doing the same thing that you do to them, to you or other children.
Yes.
So, so do you have any
Yeah.
advice for us?
So we are human beings. We are not meant to be perfect parents because there's no such thing. And we're going to mess up. And when we do, it's our role to be gentle with ourselves and come back from it as gently as possible so that we can repair for our children. So that's something that I think is revolutionary right now in some of the, some of the parents that we're working with, is we don't hear a lot of like, my parents ever apologized to me.
Mm.
My parents never said they were sorry, or my parents never tried to repair. And so that's one of the big things that we try to help parents to feel comfortable with, because sometimes it's not very comfortable to admit when we've been, um, you know, not our best selves, or not the best parents that we can be with our children. But children are so resilient. Children are so forgiving. And children will, you know, see that my mom or my dad are admitting that they were wrong, and we're modeling that for them. So yeah, being gentle with ourselves, practicing self-forgiveness. I call it unabashed self-forgiveness. Like, as soon as you mess up, just say, oh my gosh, that was really hard for me to feel. That was really hard for me to do. But I am responsible for it, and now I can move forward. So yeah, so I think that would be it. Practice self-empathy, and then practice, repairing those ruptures when they happen with our kids.
So pretty much heal yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Start the healing by forgiving,
Mm-hmm.
and that is not an easy thing to do. Actually, I have encountered that, I'm still trying to forgive a lot
Mm-hmm.
of the things that I perceive that my parents did. And I say I perceive because that's pretty much what it is. I'm pretty sure like a lot of our parents didn't meant, to harm us in direct ways. It's just that, like that's how we perceive it. And we have, a lot of wounds that we need to work
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. I have encountered that myself, like having, especially having a daughter. I had a really, like difficult relationship with my own mother. So I always, like, it's so funny because I actually had to work with a therapist about it, and
Mm-hmm.
realize that whatever happened in the past doesn't mean that it's gonna happen now.
Right.
That was, your relationship with your mom. It's
Mm-hmm.
not your relationship with your child.
Right.
And it's so funny how your mind works. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna repeat it. Oh my gosh, it's the same thing is gonna happen.
Yeah.
No, it's
Right.
not. And actually, that's the beautiful thing about learning about behavior and brain development, and also about the healing arts. There's so many ways that people can encounter healing in their lives. It could be through faith, it could be through other people, but I emphasize community because I do believe that many of us have gifts that we need to offer to others. We cannot keep them inside forever. We have them for a reason. And it's so great to hear that you, Leslie, and your partner, I'm sorry,
Lisa.
Lisette,
Mm-hmm.
Lisette, are doing that. And I'm so glad that you guys look so young
Oh my God.
and
No.
raising children yourself, but at the same time, like you guys are acknowledging that you have these gifts
Mm-hmm.
and you can use to help out healing.
Yeah.
And I pretty much invite everyone who are, like interacting in any way in this IG live to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
I made a meme of my black cat yesterday that says, if you have any gifts, what are you waiting to use them?
Oh,
What are you waiting? You have those gifts.
I
Use
love
them.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something that I have to say I like to encourage people in doing. And I'm
Yeah.
very glad that you guys are doing it. So I hope everything works out great. I
Yeah, we're so
really
lucky to be able to partner with you and with other people that are doing this work. And you're right, it is the beauty of social media that we're able to create these digital communities. And even like text messages, like we were talking about in the class that I was teaching on Sunday, we were talking about like, how do you get, um, you know, the support? And it's like, you could just text a friend, like, oh my gosh, I want to throw this child out the window right now, like, or whatever, like that feeling is. And it's like, you have to kind of name it to tame it. but how awesome it is that we're able to do that, and how you know, some of our parents didn't have access to that immediate support, especially if they were immigrants and they were coming here to a new country and didn't know the language and family was not around. Like, how
Or
challenging.
maybe they didn't have the time. You know, a lot of parents still these days don't have the time.
Right.
And it's about making them see the importance of making that time.
Right.
And I know it's difficult. I know a lot of our families are working two jobs.
Mhm.
Um, and many times, you know, we don't even have time to kind of reflect.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
but
doing
what would you do if you know you can change one habit and
Mhm.
take some time out to make your life better? Won't you take that chance?
Right.
Like,
And I mean, for those of us that have like more privilege than some of those families that really, you know, are just, they have four or five children, two jobs, very little time with their kids. And so some of us that are able to have a little bit more time, it's our responsibility to now advocate for those families in the social and political realm. You know,
exactly.
we need
It's not that
parental
we are more
leave.
political per se, or it's not that we are more like, oh my gosh, you're more outspoken.
Right.
No, we use our privilege to be
Right.
able to do that. And actually, it's not about, you know, doing what we think it should be done. It's about
Mhm.
like uh, listening to our community,
Yes. Yeah.
knowing their needs, and
And
actually coming up
strengths.
and stepping up. Like I have the privilege of speaking, you know, more than one language. I will use that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and in order to help out the parents that can't.
Yeah, and I mean, and I mean, our education and the time that we have, like, we have so many resources that we can use to help others that are not able to access some of those resources. So it's all about kind of balancing, and you know, the top is the advocacy, right? Like, once you're able to help someone else, then it's our responsibility to be able to do it. So, you
Yeah.
know, that's why it's so important to grow our communities, to grow Mama Tortuga, to grow Latinx parenting, because the more information that we can empower people with, and the more you know, community that gets built, that's just going to expand. And yeah, again, it's a movement. So I'm
Yeah,
just
I
excited.
love it. I love to be part of the movement, and I'm so glad that you guys are able to get us in the loop. We're getting closer to, we need to kind of limit it because it's hard to upload later. But do you
Yes.
have any final advice for parents, or do you have like a website that you would like to share with them?
Yeah, so right now we're mostly active on Instagram. So if you're following us anywhere, it would be on Instagram or on Facebook, and it's just facebook.com/Latinx Parenting. Very easy to find us. Our website right now, again, we want to have resources on there. We want to have web information. It has more information
Okay, I
about,
guess we're
uh-oh, are
losing.
we,
Okay.
so the website is latinxparenting.org. And so any events or support groups or anything coming up will be sent out via Instagram, but also through our newsletter. So as soon as you go on to latinxparenting.org, it'll ask you to put your email address in. And so by doing that,
So now
you'll have
you
access.
guys know, like people who are near Santa Ana, please reach out to them. They're amazing. They're really good people, and they're there to help you and help the community. So thank you so much, Leslie,
Thank
for all
you, Jo.
your time, and say hi
We'll
to
do this
Lisette.
again.
Yes, please. So
Again.
like I will post this in my website too. I will put a link, and then we will be on Instagram TV.
Okay, sounds good. And I'll share however I.
Bye, friends.
Bye. Thank you.